I killed my sister 5 years ago. So why is she standing in my doorway, alive and begging for help? The night sky over Hanoi was veiled in a thin mist, as drizzle fell quietly onto the cobblestone alleys of the old quarter. Under flickering street lamps, the city seemed wrapped in a secret it wasn't ready to confess. Inside a dimly lit apartment hidden behind an aging wooden door, Daniel Nguyen, a seasoned investigative journalist, sat rigidly before his computer screen. On it, encrypted files were rapidly decoding, revealing documents that had just been sent from an anonymous source. Daniel had exposed corruption in high places before, but nothing like this. This wasn't just a case of embezzlement or backdoor deals. This was war, silent and systemic. The documents pointed to Horizon Group, a multinational investment conglomerate led by Richard Liu, a man with deep ties in global finance and rumored connections to the shadow underworld of Southeast Asia. On the surface, Horizon appeared as a philanthropic enterprise funding green energy projects. Underneath, it was a snake nest: money laundering, illegal mining, digital surveillance experiments, and worst of all, targeted disappearances of whistleblowers and activists. Daniel's blood ran cold as he scrolled through classified testimonies, maps of underground facilities, and names, so many names. One file stood out: Emily Carter. She had vanished 2 years ago after accusing Richard Liu of funneling state funds into off-the-book operations. Everyone thought she fled the country, but this file suggested otherwise. Knowing what he now knew, Daniel had two choices: walk away and live, or investigate and possibly die. He chose the second. Just when he began cross-referencing the files with people he knew, someone from his past re-emerged: Sophia Tran, his ex-girlfriend. Now a brilliant human rights lawyer, Sophia once walked away from Daniel when his pursuit of danger grew too reckless. But now, fate reunited them. Sophia, too, had started probing Horizon's land acquisitions in the north, where entire villages were being relocated without explanation. There was still tension between them, old wounds, but also unfinished love. Together, they formed a fragile alliance. Sophia brought legal leverage and access. Daniel brought grit and sources deep inside the press and civil resistance. Then came the warning. One night, Daniel returned to find his door ajar. His documents were gone. His hard drive smashed. In their place, a simple white envelope. Inside, one Polaroid of his younger brother, tied to a chair, blood on his shirt, and a note: "Stop digging, or the next photo will be of a coffin." But Daniel didn't stop. He looked at Sophia across the table. They just made their biggest mistake. The city didn't sleep. Neither did Daniel. After receiving the photo of his brother, Michael Nguyen, Daniel moved into a safe house, a forgotten storage room above a noodle shop in Tejo District. It smelled of damp plaster and soy sauce, but it was off-grid. No phones, no signals, just a burner laptop and a loaded camera bag under the floorboards. Sophia insisted he back off. "You're not just risking yourself now, Daniel. They know your blood." Daniel stared at her with fire in his eyes. "That's exactly why I can't stop." Meanwhile, Sophia worked her angles. She pulled a favor from an old contact at the Ministry of Justice, James Dew, a high-ranking official known for playing both sides. He owed Sophia. Years ago, she covered up a scandal that would have ended his career. Now, she asked for files on Horizon's offshore accounts. James agreed to meet, in secret, at a high-end karaoke bar owned by Horizon itself. Risky? Absolutely. But Daniel knew something. The best place to hide a crime was in plain sight. That night, they met James in a private VIP room, surrounded by booming bass and dim neon lights. "I shouldn't even be talking to you," James muttered, eyes twitching toward the security camera above. Sophia slid a small encrypted flash drive across the table. "This proves Horizon used state-backed loans to fund private operations. If you help us, this all stays buried." James hesitated, then reached under the table and handed over a manila folder. Inside, surveillance photos of a location in Da Nang, Facility 7, a black site no one was supposed to know about. It was surrounded by a fake banana plantation, guards with no uniforms, underground access tunnels, no public records. But the twist? One of the photos showed Emily Carter, alive, being escorted into the facility. Daniel's pulse raced. "She's not dead." Sophia froze. "But that means..." "Richard Liu has been keeping people," Daniel whispered. And Emily wasn't the only one. They had the first proof. But as they left the karaoke bar, a black SUV trailed their taxi. Daniel noticed it in the reflection of a store window. "Run," he muttered to Sophia. But before they could escape, a man stepped into the alley, blocking their way. Tall, scarred, unmistakable. Ethan Vu, a ghost from Daniel's past. Once his closest friend in university, Ethan had joined the military after graduation. But years later, he'd vanished without a trace. Now he was here, in a dark alley, wearing Horizon's emblem. Ethan raised his hand, but not to greet. To shoot. "Ethan!" Daniel shouted, his voice echoing off the brick walls of the alley. The gun in Ethan Vu's hand didn't shake, but something in his eyes did. Sophia took a step back, hand discreetly reaching inside her jacket for the pepper spray baton she kept hidden. Daniel's body remained still, but his mind raced. "You don't have to do this," Daniel said, his voice calm. "You saved my life once. Remember that night in Phnom Penh?" Ethan's jaw clenched. "I was supposed to eliminate you back then too," he replied. "Orders were clear. I ignored them. I don't make that mistake twice." Just then, a voice crackled over a small earpiece in Ethan's ear. Static. Then a faint whisper. "Abort. Confirm identity mismatch. Stand down." Ethan hesitated. A beat passed. Then, without a word, he lowered the gun, slipped it back into his coat, and vanished into the shadows. A silent phantom returning to the dark. "What the hell was that?" Sophia hissed. "He was going to kill me," Daniel said, exhaling slowly. But someone higher up pulled the leash. They returned to the safe house. No time for sleep now. Facility 7 was real. Emily was alive. Ethan worked for Horizon, but someone above Ethan was watching too. "Who's giving Ethan orders?" Sophia asked. "I don't know. But whoever it is, they don't want me dead." "Not yet." Daniel reviewed the files James Du gave them. One caught his eye, a shipping manifest. Horizon had moved a package from Da Nang to Langley, Virginia, just weeks before Emily disappeared. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" Sophia said. "CIA's involved." Suddenly, the puzzle got bigger. Horizon wasn't just a private entity. It was a front, one with global reach, black budgets, and ex-intelligence operatives under its thumb. Then the burner laptop buzzed. A new message. No sender. Just a single line of text. "Check the grave." Attached. Coordinates to a cemetery in the mountains north of Hanoi. That night, they packed up and drove north under the cover of fog. At the grave site, they found a tombstone marked Michael Nguyen, Daniel's brother. Officially dead 10 years ago, but the grave had been disturbed. Digging 6 feet down, they opened the coffin. Inside, there was no body. Only a tape recorder, sealed in plastic. Daniel pressed play. Michael's voice crackled to life. "Daniel, if you're hearing this, they never let me go. Don't trust anyone. Not even Sophia." Daniel's blood froze. He turned slowly. Sophia stood above him, holding a gun. Daniel stared down the barrel of the gun in Sophia's hand. The silence was deafening. Wind swept through the trees above the graveyard, moaning like ghosts bearing witness. "Sophia," Daniel said slowly, "put the gun down." Her eyes were filled with conflict. Her fingers trembled ever so slightly on the trigger. "You weren't supposed to dig that grave," she said. "I didn't want it to happen this way." "So it's true. You've been working for them." A beat passed. Then a whisper. "I was recruited before I even met you." Daniel's jaw clenched. "And everything since then, our partnership, our friendship, was it all fake?" "No," she said quickly. "At first it was just a job, but I never thought I'd care. And then Emily disappeared, and I saw how it broke you. I didn't want to keep lying, but I couldn't walk away either. They have files, Daniel. On me, on my family. They threatened." Daniel lunged. In one swift movement, he knocked the gun away. It clattered to the ground, discharging once, the shot echoing like a cannon through the valley. They both froze. Sophia looked at him, terrified. "You have to run. That shot, it's going to bring them." Before she could answer, headlights pierced the trees. Black SUVs, tires grinding against gravel, sped into view. Armed men in tactical gear began to pour out. Emblems marked with a sigil Daniel hadn't seen before. Not Horizon. A new faction. Daniel grabbed Sophia's hand. "If you want to prove you're still on my side, we need to move. Now." Together, they sprinted into the forest as bullets tore through the trees behind them. Somewhere deeper in the woods, the ground gave way. an old mine shaft hidden by time and moss. They fell, down into darkness. When they hit bottom, coughing from the dust, Daniel saw something glinting in the weak beam of Sophia's flashlight. A metal door, painted with a serial number, VX 1127. Beside it, faded graffiti, they watched from the ash. Sophia's hands trembled as she touched the door. "This isn't just a hiding place," she whispered. "This is where it started." Daniel turned to her. "Then let's finish it." The door creaked open, revealing a long corridor carved from bedrock, its walls lined with rusting cables and blinking lights. The air was thick with metallic decay. Daniel stepped in first, flashlight raised, the beam slicing through darkness. "This place," Sophia whispered. "It predates Horizon. VX 1127 is from the Ash Project, an abandoned initiative even Horizon feared." Daniel glanced at her. "And you're just telling me this now? I didn't know this was real. I thought it was just a myth." But Evelyn mentioned it once, in code. They moved deeper into the corridor. On the walls were etched warnings in multiple languages, some covered with bloodstains, others in strange symbols that made Daniel's skin crawl. At the end of the tunnel was a control room. Inside, the remnants of a tragedy: broken monitors, scattered papers, a chair with restraints, and dried blood. Then the monitors flickered on. One by one, a voice crackled through the speaker, calm, cold, unmistakably human. "Welcome back, Sophia." Her blood ran cold. "No," the voice continued. "VX 1127 was never meant to be found. But since you're here, we might as well tell you everything." Daniel looked around. "Who was that?" Sophia's voice was hollow. "Adrian, Horizon's ghost. The man they erased. He was declared dead 5 years ago after the incident in New Minsk." A panel opened in the wall. Inside, a body suspended in cryostasis. Adrian, Uniged, alive. A screen beside the pod blinked to life, displaying schematics of the Ash Project, genetic enhancement trials, psychological weaponization, the creation of memory-implanted operatives. "You were one of them," Daniel said, realization hitting like a freight train. Sophia backed away. "No, I was recruited, not made. You think those migraines, the missing time, the implanted memories were just stress?" Sophia screamed and grabbed her head, stumbling. The lights pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Adrian's voice returned. "You were the prototype. I was the architect. And Daniel, you were the control subject." Daniel staggered. "What?" Sophia collapsed to her knees, eyes wide with horror. The door behind them slammed shut. Gas hissed. "You wanted the truth," Adrian whispered. "Now you'll both remember everything." Darkness closed in. Daniel awoke on a metal table, his wrists and ankles bound. Across from him, Sophia stirred, groaning in confusion. The room was lit with a sterile white light, humming with electricity. On the walls were mirrors, or perhaps two-way windows, behind which movement flickered, just out of sight. "What did they do to us?" Daniel croaked, throat dry. Sophia's eyes were wide. "They triggered the embedded memories. I remember, flashes, missions I never went on, people I never met. But I can feel the blood on my hands." "Same here," Daniel said, his voice trembling. "A desert facility. Screams. A little girl. I knew her. And I." A sharp hiss interrupted him. One of the mirrors slid open, revealing Adrian, alive, aged only slightly, wearing a white lab coat and an expression of icy calculation. "You're not hallucinating," he said calmly. "Everything you remember is real, though your roles may have been altered for obedience." Sophia lunged against her restraints. "You lied to us. You built us like machines." "No," Adrian replied. "I repurposed you. Your instincts, your loyalty, your rage, they're all programmable traits. You were my finest successes." Daniel's heart pounded. "Why tell us now?" Adrian stepped closer. "Because the next phase begins tonight. Horizon has sent a kill team. They don't know you're here yet, but when they find this lab, they'll erase it and everyone in it, including me. I need you to help me escape." Sophia's voice was sharp. "Why would we help you?" "Because if you don't," Adrian said, tapping a control panel, "your real memories, the ones still locked, will die with you. And the truth you've been chasing will vanish forever." The restraints released. Sophia and Daniel sat up, unsure whether they were allies or enemies anymore. "I'll give you your memories back," Adrian said, turning to leave. "But you'd better decide quickly. because they're already inside the facility. The lights dimmed. A distant explosion echoed from above. And somewhere in the darkness, something else awakened. Something worse than Adrian. Sophia led the way through a corridor strewn with broken lights and abandoned monitors, her every step calculated, silent. Daniel followed close, gun in hand, courtesy of Adrian, who'd handed them weapons before disappearing deeper into the facility. The distant thunder of gunfire and short, sharp screams echoed through the ventilation shafts. "They're eliminating every trace of this place," Sophia whispered. "Standard Horizon purge protocol." "But why now?" Daniel asked. "Why after all this time?" Sophia stopped at a reinforced door and scanned a keypad. "Because of us. We weren't supposed to remember." The door hissed open. Inside was a lab, not clinical, but chaotic. Walls were covered in pinned documents, strands of red yarn connecting faces, coordinates, and schematics. In the center, a steel chair with restraints, stained with old blood, sat beneath a massive array of needles and sensors. Daniel recoiled. "What is this?" Sophia stepped forward and picked up a file labeled Project Mirror. She read aloud. "Subjects D, Ashford, and S. Monroe are to undergo long-term embedded simulation, designed to erase field trauma and manipulate loyalty. Target outcome: permanent sleeper agents, activatable via neural triggers." Her hands trembled. Daniel scanned the wall. Among the photos was a face he never expected to see. Liam Monroe, Sophia's brother. Listed as terminated, unknown parameters. Sophia stepped back, shocked. "They told me he died on a mission. But he was part of this too." Suddenly, an old speaker crackled. A distorted voice rang out. "Welcome back, Sophia. Welcome home." Daniel spun around. "That's not Adrian." "No," Sophia whispered, ice in her voice. "That's Liam." The door slammed shut. The lights flickered and went red. From the walls, gas began to hiss. And from the corner of the lab, a hidden panel slid open, revealing a masked figure in combat armor, holding a glowing syringe. The masked figure didn't speak. He advanced slowly, syringe raised like a weapon, his armored footsteps echoing in the confined space. Daniel lifted his gun and fired. Click. No bullets. Sophia had already ducked behind a table, slamming open drawers and throwing aside scalpels, vials, shattered glass. She found a fire extinguisher and hurled it at the figure. Direct hit. He stumbled, but didn't fall. "He's enhanced," she shouted. "Neural combat reflexes. Probably one of Horizon's final phase operatives." Daniel grabbed a loose metal pole and lunged. The fight was brutal. The figure moved with frightening precision, countering every swing, every jab, as if reading Daniel's thoughts. With a spin, he pinned Daniel to the wall, syringe inches from his neck. "Don't!" Sophia screamed. The figure froze. Slowly, he removed his helmet. Sophia's breath caught. "Liam?" His eyes were hollow, scarred, not entirely human. "It's me, Soph," he said flatly. "Or what's left of me." Daniel broke free while he hesitated and slammed him to the floor. The syringe clattered away. Sophia ran forward, pushing Daniel aside. "No, don't hurt him. He's been altered. This isn't all him." Liam blinked, and for a moment, his face twitched, as if fighting an internal command. "They said I'd never see you again. Said you'd been reset. Wiped clean." "What did they do to you?" she whispered. "They made me the endgame." The facility shook violently. An alarm blared. A computerized voice began repeating. "Self-destruct sequence activated. 5 minutes to detonation." Sophia grabbed Daniel's arm. "We need to move." "What about him?" Daniel asked, glancing at Liam, who knelt motionless, lost in himself. Sophia hesitated. "Then, he's coming with us." She knelt, grabbed the syringe, and smashed it underfoot. Liam didn't resist. Together, they ran, through smoke, red lights, and echoing countdowns, toward whatever waited beyond the collapsing corridors of Horizon's last secret. The corridors twisted like a maze from a fever dream, flickering lights, walls shaking from timed detonations, vents bursting open with steam. Horizon's final facility wasn't just collapsing, it was erasing itself. "Left!" Sophia shouted, dragging Liam by the arm. "That elevator leads to the surface hangar." Daniel sprinted ahead, smashing through a jammed door with his shoulder. 3 minutes left. Behind them, another explosion ripped through the hallway. The heat slammed into their backs, but they pushed forward. As they entered the elevator, the doors shuttered shut, and silence fell. Liam leaned against the metal wall, panting, blood trickling from a cut above his eye. They programmed me to kill you both. Over and over. Simulation after simulation. Sophia placed a trembling hand on his shoulder. But you didn't. You stopped. Liam smiled bitterly. For now. The elevator doors opened. They stepped out into chaos. Above them, the facility's rooftop had been converted into an emergency helipad. Flames danced across the tarmac. A sleek black helicopter, unmarked, its blades spinning, waited. Think that's for us? Daniel asked, skeptical. A woman stood beside it. Tall, silver hair tied back in a military knot. She wore Horizon's insignia, but with a red slash through it. Get in, she barked. You want the truth? I'm your ride. Who the hell are you? Daniel growled, gun raised again. Sophia narrowed her eyes. I know her. That's Commander Rain. She ran Project Helix. Disappeared 2 years ago. Commander Rain nodded. Horizon turned on me. But I still have what you're looking for. The master archive, every file on every operative, every experiment. Including your sister, Sophia. Sophia froze. You know about her? I know where she is. A final explosion thundered below them. The rooftop cracked. Decision time. Rain yelled. They jumped to board the chopper, just as the helipad collapsed beneath them. As the helicopter soared into the sky, the facility vanished behind a pillar of fire and ash. Sophia turned to Rain. Where is my sister? Rain handed her a drive. She's alive. But she's not the girl you remember anymore. The helicopter sliced through storm clouds like a blade through silk. Inside, tension buzzed between the survivors and their new ally. Commander Rain sat like a statue, eyes trained on the horizon, her every movement precise and controlled. Sophia gripped the hard drive Rain had given her, fingers white with pressure. Start talking, Daniel demanded. Where are you taking us? Rain didn't flinch. To the last known location of Subject 11, your sister, Sophia. She's in the Arctic Circle, deep in a decommissioned outpost from Horizon's earliest days. Sophia glanced at the drive. Why was she even there? She volunteered, Rain said. Back then, the experiments were cleaner. But something went wrong. She became unstable, powerful, but unpredictable. Horizon called it a failure. I called it evolution. Liam leaned forward, tension sharp in his voice. Are you helping us, or using us? Rain gave him a slow, bitter smile. Let's just say, I'm cleaning up my past sins. The chopper descended onto a snow-covered plain. Nothing but white stretched for miles, until the ice cracked open like a maw, revealing a steel bunker embedded into the frozen earth. They descended into the past. The outpost was long abandoned. Rust clung to the walls like cancer, and the power flickered on with groans of ancient machinery. They passed through medical chambers littered with broken syringes and shattered glass, into a corridor labeled Subject Vaults. Rain approached a biometric scanner. Her handprint still worked. The vault door opened, and inside, suspended in cryostasis, floated a young woman. Sophia gasped. Mira. Myra's eyes suddenly snapped open. And then, alarm screamed. Rain stepped back. I was afraid of this. What? Sophia shouted. Mira was never asleep. The shrill wail of alarms echoed off the steel walls as red lights pulsed ominously. Myra's cryogenic pod hissed, the glass frosting then melting away as steam engulfed the room. Sophia stumbled back, heart hammering in her chest, as Myra's form stepped out, barefoot, dressed in a thin hospital gown, and radiating raw, unstable energy. Mira, Sophia whispered. Her sister didn't answer. Her pupils were dilated, her gaze unfocused. Then, with a sudden shriek, she lifted her hands. The walls bent inward. The entire vault groaned as the metal warped, pulled toward Mira like it was being devoured. Rain grabbed Sophia and threw her behind a control console. Liam dove for Daniel, dragging him out of the collapsing chamber. She's in a feedback loop, Rain yelled. Her mind is still trapped in a survival state. They kept her on the edge of death too long. Sophia stared at her sister through the chaos, eyes wide. She doesn't recognize me. Rain opened a secure panel, revealing a syringe. We need to stabilize her mind before she pulls this whole facility into a singularity. You want to inject her? Daniel asked. You'll get torn apart just going near her. I'm not the one who has to do it. Rain said, holding the syringe out to Sophia. Sophia hesitated only a moment. Then she ran, dodging falling beams and magnetized debris. Sophia charged into the storm of energy. The room twisted around her, and she screamed her sister's name. Mira, it's me. Mira froze. Recognition flickered, then rage. She lunged. Sophia ducked, grabbed her arm, and jammed the syringe into her neck. For a second, time stopped. Then everything collapsed into black. Sophia woke in a hospital bed, the sterile white light above her flickering faintly. Her body ached like she'd run through fire, but she was alive. Mira sat at the foot of her bed, a quiet silhouette, wrapped in a simple hoodie and jeans, hair longer, eyes clearer. You made it, Sophia rasped. I almost didn't. Mira gave a crooked smile. But you pulled me back. Sophia sat up slowly. The facility? Gone. Imploded under the gravitational stress. Mira looked away. Rain didn't make it, but she triggered a final failsafe, wiped all the Sentinel's AI backups. No more experiments. No more clones. Sophia let that sink in. Mira handed her a small, battered photo. It was one of them as children, covered in paint, laughing. What now? Sophia asked. Myra's smile was wistful. Now we live. Months passed. They moved to a quiet coastal town. Mira learned to sculpt. Sophia worked with a non-profit helping victims of scientific abuse. Daniel and Liam kept in touch, each rebuilding their own lives. But sometimes, late at night, Mira would stare into the ocean, where the horizon split the world, and wonder what might still be out there. Because in the shadows of science, not all ghosts stay buried. And some truths, no matter how deeply hidden, always rise.